war in Cuba. This international imbroglio, described from Vicki's perspective from her experience on the ground in Cuba at the time, with valuable first-hand knowledge, contributed to Al Gore's pivotal loss of Florida in the 2000 presidential election. When President Obama initiated his outreach to Cuba, I hoped it would be the beginning of a long process of reconciliation among Cubans, those on the island and those abroad. But powerful conservative Cuban Americans have found in President Trump an ally. Once again, domestic politics have trumped U.S. interests. The tightening of travel policies has had a devastating impact on new Cuban entrepreneurs. Furthermore, a health incident caused by the strange and still unconfirmed term sonic attacks endured by U.S. diplomats has pushed the relationship back to almost Cold War depths. In the meantime, China has stepped up trade and investment in Cuba, while Russia has moved to replace Venezuela as one of Cuba's strategic partners. In Ambassador Huddleston's revealing memoir, which shows a resourceful diplomat at work, Vicki illustrates with stories and an insider's knowledge the myths, misunderstandings, and false statements that have characterized our relations with Cuba. For more than 40 years, the U.S. and Cuba have had diplomatic relations. It is a myth that diplomatic relations started with President Obama's push for normalization. The listener discovers that they actually began under President Carter. Although prohibited from flying the Stars and Stripes, the American diplomatic mission in Havana, known as the United States Interests Section, had long been influential. Vicki is a realist and not naive about the complexities of this relationship. In fact, she describes in fascinating detail her often tense relationship with Fidel Castro. The Cuban leader denounced her and the U.S. government, threatening to close the U.S. Interests Section. And then, to underline his intent, he organized a protest rally of 20,000 that she dared to attend. During her 3 years as the chief of our diplomatic mission in Havana, Fidel seemed to have a competitive relationship with her. She describes how he seemed to be interested in her every move, from the dog show career of her prize-winning Afghan hound, Havana, to her collection of exile art that she displayed in the beautiful residence of our former ambassadors to Cuba. Their relationship, albeit complicated, had its benefits. After 9/11, Vicki persuaded the Cuban government to decline to denounce the incarceration of unlawful combatants at Guantanamo Base. I lament the fact that relatively few women diplomats have written their memoirs. Vicki's approach to diplomacy is creative and courageous. She doesn't sugarcoat her own mistakes and writes very candidly about the challenges of representing the United States in Cuba. In listening to Vicki's book, one can see that our relations with Cuba have too often been a story of what might have been. This is a book for anyone interested in Cuba. Americans will find a comprehensive guide to what has happened to prolong the unrelieved animosity. Cuban Americans will be fascinated by the details of the Elián González case and model relations worked out after 9/11 between our two militaries. Academics will discover never-before-revealed accounts of espionage, alliances, and betrayals. Our European, Latin American, and Canadian friends will come to better understand the influence of domestic politics on U.S.-Cuba policy. As CEO of the Kellogg Company and then U.S. Secretary of Commerce, I saw firsthand that our private sector is truly the best ambassador for American values, especially the power of free enterprise to raise living standards. I hope American entrepreneurs and companies will again soon have the opportunity.